Honor, Courage, and Commitment. Brought to you by Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation and the Texas Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Welcome aboard. I'm Jim Blythe, U.S. Navy veteran, and I got to tell you, we're going to be talking about your future today. Joining me, the one and only, the number one helicopter pilot the Marine Corps ever had. Well, I don't know about that, but the great Chuck Wright. Chuck,
considering I had lunch with Dick Peasley on Thursday,
wow.
who was the CO and XO of HMX-1, which is pretty much the pinnacle of flying in the Marine Corps. At least on the helicopter side, I'm not gonna accept that title. I was good, I wasn't that good.
Well, let me tell you, anybody who flies a helicopter is great. And of course, my executive officer, Michael Thaddeus Bogelski, took me up one time.
That's a mouthful.
Oh yeah, he was an Annapolis graduate. He took me up once over Ream Field in San Diego, and he pulled an auto rotation from 10,000 feet.
Oh, we used to do that all the time.
Yeah, I know, but if you don't know it's coming.
Yeah, no, we'd roll the engine off. In flight school, we'd roll the engine off and take it all the way to the ground. I've done it many times.
But you had a plan.
I did have a plan, and we're going to talk about that, but not before we take just a second, and I want to welcome our producer of the show, Nathaniel Smith of Ascend Podcast. He is the podcast man in DFW. The legend, the myth, the mystery.
Well, I got to tell you, since he came on board with us, our program has changed and improved so much.
Yeah, the quality's way up despite you and I. And
I resemble that remark.
We do. And the lovely Miss Diane Blythe, who rounds out our crew. She's over there managing the computer and Facebook and all that stuff. I have no idea what she does. If we lose either one of them, we're off the air, man. We don't know what's going on.
Well, I also want to reach out to the Noble Radio website down in South Texas. David Phillip, what a great group. We've got 11 stations, including San Antonio in South Texas, that are picking us up. So I want people to go to their website, Noble Radio website. Join us.
Noble Radio.
Yeah.
Love their handle.
Yeah, and join us on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube, our Veterans Impact Show. Share with us. We want to build this up, and right now we are doing great. We're going to do greater. We're going to help a lot of people.
Yes, we are. Our motto is Charlie Mike, and Charlie Mike is military shorthand for continue the mission. And part of what our show does is feature veterans who are continuing the mission, who are making a difference in our society post-military life. Many of them made a difference in the military, but they continue to do that, and they have a heart for leadership. They have a heart for giving back. I love working with our veterans. About 10 years ago, I started to move away from. I'd started to get involved in politics. Once you see how the sausage is made, as Teddy Roosevelt said, you don't want to be involved anymore.
I did that many years ago and helped a friend of mine get elected to the State House of Representatives. Chuck, I would rather work with veterans too, and that's what we do.
That's what we do.
But more than that, what you do specifically and what I do specifically to continue the mission to help not only veterans but our civilian community and provide leadership. I think that's one of the most important things. And I want to talk about what you do and how you got started doing it when you were in the Corps.
Let's set that up just a little bit, because starting the 2nd of January of this year, we saw a stock market begin a crash, and we just had the worst first half of a year in over 50 years, and it's bad. We have seen a record growth in inflation, faster than we've ever seen it. We're now sitting at 8.6%. We've been living on less than 2 for 20, 30 years now, and we've gotten a little spoiled. So the financial circumstances in America have changed just a little bit. We are formally, you want to spin it and say, we got this factor and unemployment's still good, and it is. Workforce participation is down slightly. Most people don't know what a lot of that means. But the most important thing is our economy has been in contraction for the first half of the year. Our economy is slowing, and we need it to pick back up. Now, we do have a little bit of good news. Coming out of COVID, despite the war on oil and gas, and this is the most insane thing I've ever heard. We've got a war going on oil and gas. We've driven oil and gas prices up. But fortunately, we've gotten production ramped back up. So there's starting to be some supply. And we talk about supply and demand, and it's a real simple equation. You know, if you've got too much supply, the demand tends to fall off, thus the price tends to fall up. If there's not enough supply, the demand stays the same, so the price goes up. Real simple equations, but we're starting to see a little bit of easing in gas prices. They're still more than double January of 2021. Not to go into politics, but most people know that's when 46 took over. So the economy is hurting. And I talk about this because, and we'll start out, and you'd mentioned this when we were off the air. I had met a gentleman, Jerry Coates, was a retired Marine major, and he was an absolute character. We were stationed in Hawaii. He loved to sail. He loved to, you've seen the outrigger canoes. He was coaching a team of outriggers. They would do the channel crossings and race the channel crossings, a lot of fun. One of the things I wish I had gotten to do, my deployments interrupted training for that. But anyway, Jerry was, and he catered to, and kind of the nexus for this show was we were going to talk to a gentleman from Hawaii who caters to helping military guys get ready for retirement. Well, we're going to take a little bit of a spin off of that, and we're going to talk to and really focus on our veterans and our non-veterans that are tuning in and talk about what they can do. But I talked about the market coming down because I've now been through this, and this is really, would this be number 4? So 1986.
So, yeah. Well, let's go back to 73. When I graduated,
I was still in high school.
I graduated from college. We were in a big recession then.
Yep.
Then we had another one that was a real gut buster in 87.
86. Yeah, 87.
87.
Yeah. The savings and loan crisis.
And the oil industry. Because
oil industry collapsed.
Okay. Then you come forward to 91, 92, the dot-bomb industry.
No. That was 2000, 2001.
Okay.
That was W got stuck with that one.
Yeah.
He got stuck twice, as a matter of fact. And then the second one, so in 2001, we had a big crash. And then we had, and it was the derivatives market, but it was all about mortgages and what they were doing with mortgages and kind of messing around with the rules and all of that stuff. Which you're very familiar with.
Oh, Lord, let's don't go there right now.
The great book called The Big Short. One guy figured out how to create a market where he shorted, which is an investment technique, high-risk technique, but where you're betting on something to go really bad, and he made billions. Creating the market and then making a lot of profit when the derivatives market and the mortgage market collapsed. And now we're fast forward to let's call it 2022. And it's the war on oil and gas, which we didn't need to wage. And some people will say, well, it's not Biden's fault because it's the war in the Ukraine. But here's your problem. In January of 2021, inflation was 1.4%. In February of 22, inflation was 7%. Now, why is February of 22 important? That's the month that Putin actually invaded. So that was the month the problem started. We already had set a record for 1 year growth in inflation.
Chuck, I subscribe to Matador Economics, a guy who specializes in oil field economics. And basically what he says is that the administration has put up so much road barriers and made it so difficult and so many things you got to do. And they're going, well, it's not our fault. The oil companies don't want to get into something that costs them everything and lose because the administration has been anti-oil.
So let's bring this back to our listeners. And not that I don't agree with you 100%. But we don't want to make this political. What we want to do is say, this is where we are today, America. And let's start talking about what we need to do.
We need to have a plan. And
Gotta
let me
have a
tell you
plan.
something. I am the face of it because I was born in 1946. Now, I still work, and I love doing what I'm doing. And if I can work till I'm 90 years old, God bless me, I'm going to do it. But I got to tell you, probably 95% of my contemporaries and 95% of the people that I meet with in what I do basically don't have anything but Social Security.
And that's really, really scary. That's a very, very scary thing. So let's talk about how do we build a plan. And my first step, if I ever finish the book that I started 20, 30 years ago, but step one has been pretty basic. You've got to pay yourself first. You've got to start putting money away. And we have a mutual friend that we were just talking about, and they are doing a very poor job. They refuse to start saving money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got to start putting away a little bit, if nothing else, to build an emergency fund. So if anything happens, and you were just talking about the layoffs in the mortgage industry, which is very scary because one of the leading triggers to make a recession worse or to help create a soft landing is if the housing industry starts to dip. And one of the leading indicators of that is what's going on in the mortgage industry.
Buddy, let me tell you, I talk with people across the nation. I'm with Fairway. Now, I'm a specialist in the reverse.
Fairway Mortgage.
But our company is the largest non-bank mortgage company in the nation. And basically, I hear these guys, and they're crying the blues. The builders are struggling. Realtors. I mean, you and I are very good friends with Jenny Manning and Jean, I can't ever get it right. Sorry, Jenny. Many people are saying, man, there's no inventory. We can't do anything.
Right.
And now with rates going up, people can't qualify.
It becomes, with every point of interest rate that's rising, I think it's like you've got to have another $10,000 or $20,000 of income.
Let's go another step further and separate from that, because a lot of people say, well, I can't afford to buy a house. I got news for you. Every friend that we've got that lives in an apartment has seen their apartment rent go up by more than 30 or 40%. Not 10%, not 5%, 30 or 40%.
So with the apartments, and I'm dealing with that right now because I've got an 18-year-old, and he's doing do I move out? Do I stay at home? And fortunately, we have this great relationship. I am very blessed that I have a great relationship with my son. So if he stays home, we're good with that, and it's kind of what we're hoping he does. But as you get a little bit older, as you get into your 20s, one of the things about apartment living is it is a lifestyle, and you are not going to find that lifestyle when you buy a home, because all of a sudden you go from a whole bunch of single or married couples, or couples, some of them may or may not be married, that's not important, but you've got people like that, and now all of a sudden you're around young families, and you're around middle-aged people, and you're around older retirees, and there's just this incredible mix, so you don't have the social atmosphere. And so for younger people, unless you're going to be making a lot of moves with your career, if you've got a job and you think your career is going to keep you here, we're broadcasting from DFW, but any city like that, I really do. I kick myself for ever selling the condo I had in Hawaii.
Oh,
I'd be a multimillionaire right now.
You'd be really good looking as a Marine. I got to tell you, when we come back, I want to talk about lack of planning, the life mistakes, divorce, medical, bad career choices, layoffs that are going on right now. All of a sudden, this is the worst time in the world to retire.
Yep.
Because everything, your 401k is becoming a 201k. So when we come back, let's talk about how can you work forward? How can you dig yourself out of it? And for the guy that called me up crying and said, Jimmy, I can't afford the gas to go see my grandson play baseball. It's out there. So when we come back, we're going to be talking more about this. So stay with us on Facebook. We're so grateful for you to be here on Facebook. Thank you. We'll be right back after these words from all of our partners.
Okay, we back with the Facebook crew? Hey, Facebook crew.
Yeah.
We don't leave you guys. We take a break for our terrestrial radio friends. You're listening to the Veterans Impact Show. If you haven't done it already, like us on Facebook and click follow on our YouTube channel. We're trying to grow that. We want to get a couple of hundred listeners this year. Subscribers. There we go.
Couple of thousand.
A couple of thousand would be even better. We'll talk about that. I got some strategies for that as we get into the second half of the year.
I got some partners up in Oklahoma that are going to help us too.
Cool.
Plus down in South Texas.
I like it.
We're very, very thankful for the network down there, the No Bull Network.
The No Bull Network. And unfortunately, they're not listening to us right now.
They will
we're on
next
break.
weekend.
But there we go. There we go. We're rebroadcast down there, and I'm from San Antonio. I graduated both high school and college in San Antonio. So, hey, I got that going for me. I've got family and friends.
Well, show everybody what I gave you.
Here we go. Here we go. Jim knows that he's a University of Texas grad. I'm a big Texas football fan. So I got me a Longhorn pen. So for all my Aggie friends out there, hook 'em, baby. We're coming to ruin your SEC experience.
Hey, Chuck, when we come back, I really want to focus on, again, where you got started, but the lack of planning that we see. And a lot of people say, well, I don't want to live on a budget. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Let me tell you something. Life mistakes. We talked about the recession in 73. We talked about 87. 87, I had to close the doors of my company.
Wow.
And that was no fun because I love those people that I worked with, and give them their final paycheck and a letter of recommendation hurt deeply.
Yep.
And that happened in the 80s. It happened again in the 2000s. It happened in the 90s. It happens. Now, overall, if you started in 1946, when I was born,
right,
and you look at the price of a home, and you look at the stock market, and you look at incomes, we've come a long way, baby.
Yep, we certainly have.
But most people are along for the ride. They haven't planned. And all it takes is a sickness, an automobile accident. Oh, gosh, man, for retirees, you have any idea how many guys I've talked to? And I said, well, why are you coming to me to do this mortgage lending on your home, the reverse mortgage? Why? How can I help you? And the guy, I've had it happen so many times. They unbutton their shirt, and they've got a zipper scar from here to here.
Yep.
Okay? And it took everything they had.
Yes. And it's an absolute problem. Now, we don't want to scare everybody off talking about planning. Planning is like going to, I liken my job to going to the dentist. Nobody wants to go to the dentist. I don't care how minimal an appointment it is, there's always pain involved in a very sensitive part of your body, extremely sensitive. But here's the thing. If you go to your dentist on a regular basis, you get your teeth cleaned twice a year, you take care of small problems before they become big problems, you get to be my age, you get to be your age, especially your age, and guess what you have?
A mouthful of teeth.
A mouthful of your own teeth. Lots of people have a mouthful of teeth.
Yeah.
How many have a mouthful of their own teeth?
I think also one of the things is the rewards are so amazing.
They are very important.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. Thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation and the Texas Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Now, let's continue this conversation. Well, Chuck, this is a great opportunity to talk about helping people because I'm getting so many phone calls. I've got a meeting this afternoon. I was in Oklahoma yesterday.
Yep.
Helping families because they're looking forward, or they're in a situation where they can't make it on the income they have.
And that is a real challenge. It's one of the things that I have the last 10 years of on the business side of my career, I have really been focused on, which is a concept. Now, you can call it a self-funded pension plan. I call it a private pension plan, but it's basically the same thing. So what we want to do. So let's talk about the people that have gone from a 401k to a 201k. I'm advising people to put 20 to 50%, depending on their age and investment tolerance, et cetera, into what we call a private pension plan. Because what that does is it creates a base level of income, not unlike Social Security, that you're getting paid every month. And the beauty of ours is ours comes with, and you guys have benefited from this, my in-laws just got a really nice bonus check in June.
We did too. We did too.
Because we pay dividends on top of, so it works sort of like a blue chip stock with no downside risk. The difference is in a stock, you own a piece of the company. With us, you own a piece of our company, but you're getting a guaranteed income every month. And then when we declare dividends, now we haven't missed a dividend payment in over 160 years, but they're not guaranteed. We got to say that, full disclaimer. There we go.
Yeah.
Chuck Wright, Lone Star Wealth Strategies is a firm that I founded 36 years ago when I got out of the Marine Corps. And I was mentioning Jerry Kotz in the previous section. Jerry was my financial advisor. And I realized this might be a decent career for me when I was explaining what he did to people I had referred to him actually better than he did. He sat in a meeting one time, and I basically ran the meeting, and he just looked over and goes, "Why should I say anything? You were doing just fine." But again, it goes back to this concept. So if you haven't retired yet, number one thing I want to say is pay yourself first. And in today's world, and my favorite book on this subject is a book called The Automatic Millionaire. It was written by a gentleman named David Bach. It's one of those short books which are good for Marines because we don't like to go, we're not going to do war and peace, baby. But it is a small book. It is chock full of good ideas. This is not an investment book. This is a money management book, and those are two very, very different things. I can spend all day talking about investments. That's a lot of fun, and I'm going to do that here in just a second, as a matter of fact, because there's good news for the 201k. And the younger you are, the better this news is going to be. And I'll get to that in just a second. But you start putting money away. You are getting your check deposited electronically into your bank account. Your bank can set it up. I'm just going to pull a number out of the air. Let's say your check is $1,000. Put $100 every time that $1,000 check gets there. Put it over in the savings account. Boom. You spend what's left. And here's the thing. You were talking a minute ago, and I always tell people this. I said, well, I don't want to do a budget. Well, you don't have to. You really don't have to, but you don't realize you live on a budget. Everybody lives on a budget.
Yeah.
Okay. And everybody's got three plans. They got the plan they think they have. They got the plan they actually have, and they're usually nowhere near each other, but then you've got the plan you need. And that's where you and I step in and help people figure out the plan they need. So, hey, drop me a note on Facebook and say, you know what, Chuck, sit down with me, talk about this stuff. I don't know if I ever want to do business with you, but let's at least have a conversation, and I promise you will walk away from that conversation knowing more about money than you do today.
Okay, I have a degree in finance from the University of Texas. I have been in real estate all my life and dealt with finance. When we got a windfall from my dad's trust, we sat down with you, and I didn't completely understand what we were doing. But I was like, listen to this man, because every time he said for me to do something and I didn't do it, I got hurt. And every time I did what he said, so I did it. Now, the company I'm with, Fairway, Harlan Nicola, brilliant guy, got us into a membership with the National Association of NAIFA. Now, you're a member of NAIFA.
Yeah.
When we come back,
Insurance and Financial
I
Advisors.
want to talk about that because I'm a beneficiary of what you got for us and taught me, and I've joined NAIFA not to sell what you sell, but to understand what you do. So when we come back, we're going to talk more about how can you not only build a plan, but how can you be successful in retirement? And more than that, how can you take care of your family?
Yep.
Because a lot of people are not doing it. All right, this is Jim Blythe with the great Chuck Wright. We're going to be right back after these words from all of our partners. You're listening to the Veterans Impact Show. We're here for you. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Join us. We're here for you.
and we're still here for our Facebook crew. We're having a lot of fun. And I may mention this again, but the one thing that I wanted to say, the good news of a 201k, I want everybody out there that can hear the sound of my voice and share this with friends. As much as you want to panic right now, this is the worst time to sell.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also the best time to buy. So keep plugging money into your 401k. I know it doesn't sound like you're like, oh, my gosh, it's going down, it's going down, it's going down. It's going on sale. Ask the women. They understand what a sale means.
Buy low, sell high.
It's funny. Nobody in America wants to follow that advice. This is one of the best buying opportunities of the last 20 years.
Chuck, 95% of the people out there don't plan further than Saturday night's dinner or Thanksgiving.
And it's Saturday.
Yeah, I know.
I haven't even planned dinner for tonight yet.
Yeah, well, I'm working on our lunch today. Okay, but Chuck, I see so much pain. I see so many people call me up, and they can't pay their bills. They can't do this. They can't do that. They were retired, and they were living, and I'm like, well, when did you take your Social Security? Well, I wanted to quit. I hated my job, and I quit at age 62. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's almost suicidal because you get the lowest amount possible.
So I'm going to make this personal, and I'm going to offend my wife a little bit because I'm going to bring my father-in-law into this. And you and my father-in-law are about the same age, and we stayed on him, but he retired, and he has not done a heck of a lot, and it is really wearing on him. You have so much more energy. You are so much more active. You flew a private plane to Norman, Oklahoma yesterday, or actually you flew back. Your son flew up there.
You always have a safety pilot.
Yeah, got to have that safety pilot. But the bottom line is you're getting out and you're doing stuff. Stay active. How does this relate financially to those people who retired? And I understand you might be in a job that you don't love. And it was really funny because we were referencing a book. And one of the tips in the book was if you've retired, go do something you love, even if it's for minimum wage.
Oh, can I tell you a story?
Tell me a story.
I helped a lady a number of years ago, retired, big corporate job, and I sat down with her and I said, why are you coming to me to do a reverse mortgage? How can I help you? And she said, well, I've got this good pension, I've got this, I've got that, but I really want to do something different, and I want to pay off my mortgage and not have a monthly payment so I can live with it, and I want some extra money. I said, okay, I can do all that. What are you going to do with it? She said, I'm going back to school and get a teaching certificate. I love children. I like, what? I said, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So she did it, didn't have a monthly payment except the taxes and insurance. She has the money. She gets her teaching certificate. The last time I talked with her, she was having a time of her life working with pre-K kids, teaching them. I had another guy, I walked through his house, and I said, well, how can I help you? Well, I got to get this mortgage paid off. I've got to have, more income. And we were in the back bedroom, and I walked in, and here is all this fly fishing equipment. And I said, man, you're really into this. He goes, yeah. I said, what do you do? He said, I'm just retired. I don't do anything. I go fishing. I said, why don't you go to a sporting goods store and offer to set up a fly fishing department? He did that.
Yep.
He taught kids fly fishing. All right, we're going to be right back after these words. Well, we're doing the words. So, hey, Facebook, stay with us. You're going to have fun. Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. Thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation and the Texas Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Now, let's continue this conversation. Okay, I got to tell you, Chuck Wright does more than any Marine. He is the top 5%. A lot of people say 20% do, 80% follow along. Chuck's in the 5% up at the top. But one of the things he does is he has developed strategies for Diane and I, Diane's mother, Diane trusts that she manages. And above and beyond that, when you talk about involved in Marine, you were the MC last year of the Marine Corps Ball.
Yep.
Reads Across America, you're heavily involved in that. Toys for Tots, you headed that up.
A couple years ago.
You are
never do that again.
The most active, always continuing the mission. Right now, today, you and I talk about all the time, the mission that we're seeing of our generation.
Yep. And probably
financial.
the greatest challenge we have in the richest country the world has ever seen is it is amazing to me how many people are living paycheck to paycheck. The majority
less.
of our people.
Or less.
Well, and those are the ones. And it's the only time I will recommend Dave Ramsey because his investment advice, quite frankly, is awful. But there isn't anybody better on the planet at coming up with a strategy to get out of debt. So if you're in debt, read Dave Ramsey. Now, the one thing I will say is if you're in debt, do not put extra money into your mortgage. You need to be building up an emergency savings plan, and then you need to be investing money. Now, I'm going to go back, and we said it for the Facebook crew, but this is for our terrestrial radio folks, especially our friends down in South Texas. Here's the good news and the one warning I want to give you. We've turned 401ks into 201ks this year, really 301ks this year because the market's down 27%.
We don't know where it's going to go.
But we don't know where it's going to bottom. And it's really interesting. Second half of this year is going to be really interesting. But here's the one thing I want to tell you. This is going to sound so counterintuitive, and I know a lot of you have already stopped investing in your 401k. Restart that puppy. Get it going. Now, if you've got financial tightness, and if you were doing, say, 8%, just do 4%. But keep buying. Keep buying. Because the one thing the market has never done, it has never failed to bounce back. Now,
Takes time.
It has been 6 months. We were talking about the different crashes, 73. That took about 3 to 5 years for it to bounce back. 86 took about 10 months it to bounce back. 2001, the dot-com bubble burst. That one took almost 3 years to bounce back. We had the crash in '08, which was the derivative market. That puppy bounced back in 18 months. So there's not that long. But here's the thing. You're buying low to eventually sell high.
That's always been the case. You take a look at housing values. Chuck, it's important, though, to continue the mission and stay in the fight.
Exactly.
That's where a lot of people throw up their hands. I'm selling out. I'm selling everything.
Yep.
Well, here's the problem. When it turns around and comes back, it's moving so fast they can't get back in.
It's like waiting to get on a boat that's at the dock. And once it's left the dock, there is no way you're going to swim fast enough to catch that boat.
All right, let's talk about another thing.
Okay.
For people who have retired, what can you do? One of the biggest things I've done, and everybody that I've counseled, whether we do a reverse mortgage or not, is encourage them, if they can, A, to get active, which you were talking about with your father-in-law, physically, and basically, B, find something you enjoy doing. We told the story about the lady who wanted to go back and teach, and she loves it, and the story about the guy who does fly fishing, teaching that. I have found other people who go and they find a second career. Maybe it's a part-time job. Maybe it's a volunteer deal. I don't know how many volunteer deals that you and I see that turn into full-time jobs.
Absolutely. And there's a lot that can be done. But I want to tell a quick story about a veteran who got out and he wanted to do something, and he went over to Walmart and he became a greeter. And I know everybody looks down their nose at that, but he got to talk to people every day. And he was the best greeter the manager of Walmart ever said, but he had this terrible problem. He was supposed to show up at 9, and sometimes he'd get there at 9:15, and sometimes it was closer to 10. And finally sits him down and said, Bill, when you were in the military and you showed up late, what did they say to you? He said, well, they usually would come up to me and say, General, did you want coffee or tea this morning?
I'm sorry. That was too good a story.
Okay, it's my favorite Walmart greeter.
I love it.
But it's incredible how many, and it's amazing to a lot of military guys, a lot of guys, period, and a lot of women, too. I mean, my wife's the handy person in our house. I can't even plug stuff into the, I can't plug the computer into the plug.
My wife, she knows how to do the thermostat on the air conditioner.
Go get a job at Lowe's part-time. They're desperate for help right now. Or Home Depot, I like Lowe's because of my buddy Steve Mills, who's with the district manager with Lowe's, and we'll share that story, the Gunny Parish story, a little later, but and not this show, but we'll talk about it in the future. But the point that Jim and I are driving at, if there's a little bit of a money need, take a part-time job. The other thing that you're doing is every day your feet are hitting the floor, and we talk about this, and this is regardless of age. And one of the things we do with the concept of Charlie Mike, with continuing the mission, is we help our veterans find that sense of purpose that was lost when they got out of the military. And I tell the story, it's the prairie dog story, and a lot of our listeners have heard me talk about the prairie dog. And, you get out of the military, and it might be 6 weeks, it might be 6 months, it might be 2 years. You don't want anything to do with the military. You're gone, leave it, that's it. But then like a prairie dog, you pop your head out of the hole and you start looking around and going, wait a minute. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the people. These civilians aren't like the people in the military, because the people in the military all have a shared purpose. And so they start to try to connect, and that's one of the things that you and I have done is we are part of a lot of programs that get people re-engaged, be it Wreaths Across America and going out and honoring our veterans at our National Cemetery in December. And a little plug for that, we're doing Christmas in July. Our Facebook page is dfwwreaths.com, so 2 W's in that. Come check it out. Just one of the simple things you can do, a lot of people don't like the traditional VSOs, the VFW, the American Legion, the Marine Corps League. I said, give them a chance, and if you don't like it, try something else. You are wearing your Heroes on the Water golf shirt.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is an
man.
organization created by our dear friend Jim Dolan. May he rest in peace. Absent companion, brother, we will see you in Valhalla. He passed away. An incredible gentleman, created a great organization. Once a month, guys get out. Families get out. And this is the other thing I love about Heroes on the Water. Families get out. So look up Heroes on the Water if you want to go do some kayak fishing. The largest kayaking fishing organization in the world. And these are just a few. Mission Continues, Team Rubicon, Team Red, White, and Blue. There's veteran organizations out there that are not necessarily looking for money. They are looking just to engage veterans, carry the load. Now the One Tribe Foundation. So there are tons and tons of them that are out there doing great work, engaging veterans.
Now, one of the big things that I have learned over my 75 years is networking. And by plugging into these organizations, you might be amazed that you're sitting there talking to somebody and he says, hey, I've got XYZ company, and I really need a receptionist, or I really need a this, or I really need a that, or I really need a customer service. Yep. Let me tell you, there are a lot of military guys with a little bit of training could do customer service like they were falling out of bed. It's amazing.
Piece of cake. It's an absolute piece of cake.
And they're making a good living, and they're sitting at a CRT, and they're doing all kinds of things. I think the more you stay active, and one friend of mine the other day said, my God, Jim, you're the most active person I know. Every
we
year.
were talking about solutions.
Yeah.
I want to jump back to solutions because I want you to explain. And this is for somebody nearing retirement, because you've got to be, I think it's 62 to even qualify. But a lot of people's biggest asset is their home.
It's also their biggest expense.
Okay. So I want you to talk for just a minute about how a reverse mortgage works and how it would help somebody who's got a cash flow problem.
Okay, first of all, I want people to know is I sit down with everybody in their home, and a lot of people do, and we go over their budget. We go over their situation. We talk about, is this going to be your forever home? If you've got a 2-story home that's 3,500 square feet, it's just you and your wife, is this a smart thing for you to do? So we come up with a plan. What is a reverse mortgage? It is a government-insured loan. It enables you to basically utilize the equity in your home, the debt equity. So if you've got a mortgage, we can get it paid off. Now, it isn't a 80% like the Texas home equity. It's roughly 50% or so, and it again, depending on the interest rate. But we can pay off that mortgage. But what if you got no reserves? What if you've got nothing in the bank and you have an air conditioner go south, or the couple, and I have done this so many times, 3,500 square foot, 2-story home with a pool, and there's just the two of them. And I say, can you afford this? And they go, no, we can't. We can't pay the insurance has gone nuts. The taxes are terrible, even though we've got them frozen. The cost of utilities. I said, sell it. This is the highest market we've ever had. Sell this puppy and let's downsize. And I have helped so many move to builders' homes, like David Weekley. One of my partners is going to a Beazer deal. There's a number of companies that are building single-story, handicap adapted homes. It's not real obvious when you walk through the home. Mm-hmm. That's a huge thing. So if you may go from 3,500 feet to 2,000 feet, 1,800 feet. Chuck, the smartest thing you can do. And you walk out of the transaction with money. Now, what happens if you got nothing but Social Security or income for your income? And all of a sudden, you're able to sell that $500,000 home, and you're able to buy a $400,000 home with $200,000 plus down. And all of a sudden, wait a minute, I've got $250,000 left over. I can now create a self-funded income. And a lot of guys will go, well, why would I do that, Jim? Well, let me ask you a question. Your Social Security is $2,500 a month. Your wife gets how much? Oh, she only gets about $1,200 a month. If something happens to either one of you, you're going to lose that $1,200 a month. Yep. What if you had self-funded pension? What if you had what you set up for us also is an insurance plan that we can access money for home care, home health care? Yep. What if you had these tools and one of you goes? What if you had downsized into something more affordable, and instead of $450 and $500 a month utilities, you're down to $200 or less? Right. And what if you put solar on it, like Diana? Diane, our average utility bill in the year with solar on our house is probably $15 zero. Yes. Wow, you talk about budgeting. So what we can do is use the Swiss Army knife, I call it, a reverse. We can pay off a mortgage. We can create income. We can create set aside for taxes and insurance. We can create a line of credit that grows, and it's all insured by the government. Right. This, suddenly, you can create wealth strategies. You're sitting in a huge asset that, quite frankly, is full of dead money. You can't walk into a grocery store and say, hey, I've got $400,000 equity in my home. I need to buy some groceries. And they go,
you can't eat a house.
You can't eat a house. But the house can eat you.
Yeah. Now, and the other thing that I will tell people, that money in your home, you just said dead money. It is dead money because it doesn't grow at all. Mm-hmm. That house is going to appreciate the same whether you have a mortgage on it or not. It doesn't care. So it's one of the things that I mentioned Dave Ramsey before, but he loves to tell people to put extra money in their home. I'm not a big believer in that because, one, it's dead money, and two, you can't access it. And the people that are working with Dave Ramsey are the people who are largely not going to qualify for a mortgage loan in the event they really
They're in their 40s.
Yeah.
Now, Chuck, the other thing is, and you talked about setting money aside. One of the things I don't like Dave Ramsey because a lot of things he says are not true, but one of the things he does say is have 6 months reserve fund. Yep. What happens if you get laid off? What happens if you get injured? Yeah. What happens if you get hurt?
Be amazed how fast you go through that 6 months.
Okay, when we come back, we're going to finish up talking about how you can plan better and prepare for the future. We want you to get a hold of us. Go to us on Facebook. Go to jimblythe.net. Go to Lone Star Wealth Strategies. We're here to help. We're not going to sell you something you don't want. We're here to help you to be able to take care of your family. We're going to be right back. This is Jim Blythe and Chuck Wright. Thank you, Nathaniel. Thank you, Diane. What a great day we've got. I got to tell you, pay attention because it counts in the end. This is the Veterans Impact Show. Thank you for being on board. Join us on YouTube. Join us on Facebook. Thank you.
All right. Hey, cool. We're back. I say we're back. We've never left our Facebook group. It's kind of a strange show. We're trying to blend podcasting and terrestrial radio. So we'll continue to
And TV.
and TV. Yeah, we're actually broadcasting California on TV.
You know, I got a call from retired Lieutenant General Ray Mason, who heads up the Army Relief Fund.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, Jimmy, you're not going to believe this. My sister-in-law called me and said she saw me on TV in California. And I'm like, wow, okay. It's important, though, that people kind of wake up.
Yes.
You know, the evening news is enough to scare the goodness gracious out of anybody. It's so negative. There are positives. There are things you can do, like create the self-funded pension.
So there's a lot of things that you can do. And when I first started in business, and I'll talk about that real quick, and I was mentioning that I was explaining Jerry Kotz was my guy back then. I had never talked to anybody about money management. I had a guy, back when I was tending bar in college, I had a guy that worked for one of the stock brokerage firms. And I have always regretted not sitting down with him. And of course, he was looking for people that had $50, $100, $200,000 to invest. And here I was, this little bartender that could probably afford to invest $50 a month. But I always hated the fact that he never sat down and said, hey, look, $50 a month, $30 a month. I got my mother started at $1 a day. And I used to talk to people about building wealth at $1 a day. $30 a month, put it in a mutual fund and let it grow. And my mom did that because it was funny. She told me, Chuck, I don't have any money to invest. I said, Mom, you can't afford $1 a day. I said, come on, I got homeless clients that can afford $1 a day. And she laughed, and everybody laughs at that line, but it was true. But she started doing that, and lo and behold, when she retired from teaching, she used that money, that slush fund that she had created, to take a series of trips where she traveled all over the nation. Made all kinds of trips, spent all the money, which is what it was there for. And we tell her all the time, Mom, spend it. We don't care if you leave us a dime. Spend it. But the point that I'm making is that you can start with a very small amount of money. And the more time you have, the better it is. I mentioned my son, and he is looking at potentially being a fireman. I cannot believe how much money those guys start. But I have worn off on him because he's already talking to me. Hey, Dad, how do I start an investment? And I said, as soon as you get a job, we'll start putting $50 a month away, and you just do that every month. And we're going to build that up, and you will retire to 20 years as a fireman as a multimillionaire.
Yes. And not only that, but you have options.
Yep.
If you ain't got money, you're very, very limited on your options.
So one of the things, you're really not, and that's why I say pay yourself first. And so let me use this analogy. When is the best time to plant a tree?
Now?
No, 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
20 years. When is the next best time to plant a tree? Today. Now.
Today.
So I don't care where you are, unless you're retired, and that kind of changes things a little bit. But if you are not retired yet, you've got access to a 401k at work, start paying yourself first. You're doing direct.
Welcome back to the Veterans Impact Show. Thanks to our great sponsors, Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation and the Texas Veterans Chamber of Commerce. Now, let's continue this conversation. Well, Chuck, we're about to bring this program back into the dock to let it rest for the weekend, but I got to tell you, this is a tremendous conversation because I'm passionate about it. You're passionate about it. When Harlan Nicola opened the door for us to join NAFA, the national association that you belong to 30-something years, I jumped on it and I started going to some conferences, not because I wanted to sell what you sell, but I wanted to understand what you do.
Sure.
And I learned so much, and then I called you up and I said, I got to tell you the truth. I really didn't understand what you did for Diane and I. Now I do, and it's amazing. And then we got this month, you talk about that dividend check. We got a very nice dividend check.
Yep.
And it's nice to know we've got that base in income. It's also nice to know that when the time comes, we can do a reverse mortgage to get our forever home.
Sure.
We can purchase a home using that and put more money into our investment strategies.
And one of the things that I wanted to say, and this is one of the negatives of the planning world, is it's a Chinese jigsaw puzzle, and no two are exactly the same.
Exactly.
But the one general piece of advice I want to give, I love to set people up with what I call a private pension plan. You call it a self-funded pension plan. I love to set them up with that, but never with 100% of somebody's money, because I want them to have an investment account. And as we've mentioned several times, if your 401k has turned into a 201k or a 301k, I don't care right now. Hang on, keep buying. Or if you have already liquidated money, that's fine. But I want you to keep buying, and I want you to buy into the stock market, because the stock market just went on sale. And there will not be another opportunity in you and I's lifetime that will be as good as 2022 to buy. Because from here, the market is probably going to it'll eventually bottom. I have no idea when, despite my economics degree. I can't tell you when it's going to bottom. Just keep buying. Every month you just keep buying. Make sure you're pushing. If you're getting $1,000 every paycheck, put 100 of it over in your savings account. Whatever the number is, start with something, and then next year, what I want you to do is I want you to do $25, $50 more. If you were putting 4% in your 401k, next year I want you to put 5% in your 401k. And I want you to keep doing that until you're putting about 10% in your 401k, and you're putting another 5% into your savings. But I want you to build up both, and we'll take part of that 401k, we'll turn it into a private pension, but never with 100% of your money.
Chuck, one of the most important things is when I sit down with people and they come to me and say, can I do a reverse mortgage? Well, yeah, I go through everything and I go, yeah, but let's have a plan.
Sure.
And is this your forever home? Because you don't want to do a reverse mortgage and then turn around in a couple of years and need to sell, need to move. You've got to have a plan.
Yep.
And building that plan is building for success. Without a plan, you plan to fail. That's a cliche. And the other thing that we talked about, and we told stories about it, with a base, with that self-funded pension, if I had to quit, if things didn't work or I got sick, we're okay, which is a wonderful thing. But I can continue to do what I do.
Absolutely.
I met a guy the other day, and we were on a call together, and I was looking at this guy on Zoom, and I go, how old is he? And come to find out, he's 86.
Wow.
He's 11 years older than I am, and he's out producing
You're
me.
old.
I am. But Chuck, you got to keep going.
Got to keep moving.
And you got to
have a purpose.
You got to keep learning how to use technology. I'm working with several people right now, and I say, do you have email? No, I don't even have a computer. I'm scared of it. I don't want to do it. You're out of the loop of the world in communication.
And before you take us into the dock, the one thing that I want to say, we've talked about a lot of negatives. It is not all bad news.
Mm-mm.
Give us a call. We'll talk you through it. Everybody has the plan they actually have, the plan they think they have, the plan they need.
Well, let's say a prayer. We close this. Father in heaven, we're just so thankful for the opportunity to live in this country. We're so thankful that you protect our active duty military and our protection, our veterans. Thank you for so very much, because we live in a great, great, blessed world. God, you are so fantastic. Thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Buddy, let's go get some lunch.
That sounds like a good idea.
And I hope you enjoy your pen. I hear it's musical. Probably plays The Eyes of Texas.
I've got a few. I've got a bottle opener that does that. I got a few things that do that.
And
I got another one that plays a Marine Corps hymn too.
I need to find a bottle of Texas bourbon that when you open it plays The Eyes of Texas.
That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I got plenty of bottles of Texas bourbon, including one you gave me.
Yeah. Do you like it?
I like it. It's my favorite mixing whiskey.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Hey, we'll see you guys on Facebook next week. Give us a call. Chuck Wright, Jim Blythe. Go through Facebook, find us. Go to Lone Star Wealth Strategies. Go to jimblythe.net. We're here to help you. We're here to make you successful.
Cool.